lay aside our preference for his presence and what he's doing in our community. So we're excited about that. So can you welcome up Alexis as she shares, she kicks us off. Thank you, Alexis.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure it is to be here. As James said, I am married to the Rocky. We call him Rockstar, but don't tell him that. And we have 4 wonderful children. So we have Bailey, who's 18, Ephraim is 16, Marita's 13, and Elsie May is bringing up the rear, and she's 8. We've been part of Grace Vineyard family now for 17 years, and when I say that, that sounds a heck of a long time. And during that time, we've seen this church just go from strength to strength, and what a privilege it is to be on the journey. And Vineyard here is our home, it's our tribe, and you are our people, and we're just really blessed to be part of this family. As James said, I'm going to speak a little bit about local mission and what it looks like in the context at City Campus and what I do. But for me, I just really want to say that local mission for us as a wider church, I think, is vitally important. In Mark, the gospel tells us that the church, or as God's people and as the church, we need to go from the end to the ends of the earth and go out to the nations and share the good news with people and share that good news of Jesus. You know, we're called to be salt and light of the world, and we're called to be a beacon of hope. All of these things are actually part of the Great Commission, to be disciples and to make disciples. But what really is a church if it has a thriving overseas mission and the communities that these churches are in are actually suffering? The local church really needs to be the first port of call for people to come when they need hope and when they need help. Sorry, I've got the shakes. We should be radically transforming the communities that we're in just by our presence. You know, overseas mission and the love of the local church and its mission should never be competing for affection in our heart. If one seems to win out over the other, then I feel like we have a bit of a problem. I believe it's a both and some of us are called to go, and then others of us are called to stay. And I guess the grounding scripture for me when it comes to my faith comes from John 13, 34 to 35. You know, that Jesus was talking to his disciples, and he knew that his time was coming and he would be leaving. And he said to them, "A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." You know, I try to live out my faith every day like this. And when it comes to this scripture here, that's where I see my mission field, and it feels natural for me to work in this way. I'm not naturally an evangelist, and I can't really just go up to people and quote some scripture or give them a lollipop and lead them to Jesus. That's not what God's gifted me with. However, I'm really quite relational, and I have a high empathy. Sometimes I have too much empathy and I'm in tears a lot, and I'm somewhat pastoral. But I really love building relationship with people, and I think that the role that I'm in currently works really well with my giftings. So God's called me to be one of those people to stay here and serve locally in mission. So currently I manage one of the 3 trusts that come under the Grace Vineyard umbrella, and that's Strengthening Linwood Youth Trust. So Strengthening Linwood Youth Trust came from very humble beginnings 11 years ago when Maddie Stevenson and Scotty Young decided that they wanted to go and build some relationship with some young people. So they would go into Linwood Intermediate at lunchtimes and just hang out and play basketball and just have fun with the youth. So that really begun an 11-year journey to where we are now. So now we employ 5 youth development workers, and as well as myself as a manager part-time, and we work very closely in at Linwood College. We also have around about 20 volunteers that help us out on a fortnightly basis, but the main thing and the most exciting thing for me is the fact that we are in contact with over 500 young people a week. I guess the purpose or the kaupapa of Strengthening Linwood is to connect, support and develop young people. And that is young people within our local community, so Phillipstown, Linwood, and probably a little bit the greater Linwood area. So we want to encourage young people from all walks of life, and we want to see these rangatahi and see that they are connected and supported to develop and grow and be able to begin to strengthen their own communities. But I guess at the end of the day, we're unashamedly a faith-based organisation and believe that true transformation cannot happen unless these young people get an encounter with Jesus. But there's a tension in that, however, but because we rely so greatly on outside funding and also we work in a secular school, we can't just go in and talk about Jesus. So we've had to develop some programs that enable us to use those programs as stepping stones to invite these young people into church. So I'm just going to show you a quick wee video now and a little synopsis of what we do.
Kia ora, my name's Ruby. I'm part of the Strengthening Linwood Youth Trust team here at Linwood College. Some of the programs that we do here at Linwood include the Breakfast Club, where we provide breakfast for up to 60 students every single day at interval. We do one-on-one mentoring sessions where we do some goal setting and some work with some students one-on-one that have been referred to us. We have a presence in the school around lunchtime and we do after-school activities on Monday and Friday down at Linwood Park as well. And I guess we're the extra presence in the school that just can support the students and support the staff to just do the best they can here at Linwood College.
I love the Linwood youth workers because they support you so much and they're caring, kind, amazing, lovely, and they will support you and they want you to try your best in school.
They're amazing here. They help you for a lot of things. You can talk to them, they can talk to you, meet up after school and that.
Well, I just love them because I feel like I can trust them and I know I can tell them anything and I won't be judged, and just feel like it's a safe place where it's real chill and we can just talk about life.
You recognise Ruby there. She works for me. You guys are so blessed to have her as a youth pastor. Man, you need to let her know how loved she is, because if you don't, I might flog her full time. So 24/7 is, you heard Ruby speak about it in the video, and 24/7 is a national network that there is a relationship between a school and a church, and so it's built a lot around trust. So we work together to look after the well-being of the young people in our community. Nationally, the 24/7 network work with over 100 churches, and they supply youth workers to over 71 schools within New Zealand. And I just think that that's really incredible that 71 predominantly secular schools are going to churches and inviting them to have young Christian youth workers come into their schools. That's phenomenal. 24/7, you can do so much within a school. You are there to predominantly serve what the school needs. However, for what Linwood College have asked us to do, it looks a little bit like we run the Breakfast Club that Ruby spoke about. That happens every day at interval. And at interval, every day we see 60 to 80 young people coming for breakfast. Now, for some of these kids, this is the only meal that they get for the day. Not some, not all, but some of them. The Wheat Bix and the toast is the only thing that they get to eat. And contrary to what the wider community, the wider media and the politicians will have you believe, most of these children come from very hard-working families where one or both parents are working really hard but are still struggling to make ends meet. We also work really closely with the school guidance department, and they help us to identify some young people who need extra support or more scaffolding around them. And as Ruby said, we also run a number of groups, life skills groups, girls groups, anger management stuff. But however, mentoring is probably, one-on-one mentoring is probably the biggest part of what we do. You know, walking a journey with a young person is one of the greatest things that you can do, and we are so privileged to be able to do that. We have had, in the past, 2 former young people that were mentored through Strengthening Linwood come back and work for us. And we often work with young people who have all the odds that are stacked against them. The young people we spend the most time with are often the young people who are most vulnerable and have had the worst experiences already in life. Kids that have been through many different schools, through many different homes, and whose home life is often similar to a Once Were Warriors movie. You know, there's this young girl that comes to one of our programs every day, and she's just gorgeous. But she's desperate for a mother figure. She had a horrendous upbringing with lots of sexual abuse and is now living with a caregiver. Her caregiver is in a relationship that is very tumultuous and is often kicked out of the home. So her caregiver and herself end up sleeping in the car. Now, sometimes this happens just once, and it's one night, and then there's a reconciliation in the relationship, but often it's for a week or 2 weeks. And this young girl just comes to school every day, no matter what's going on for her at home. And it's just heartbreaking. She's desperate for someone to love her and to nurture her. And so one of the great privileges that we have as a trust is to be able to set her up with a mentor. And so I now have an older woman, and when I say older, someone similar to my age, and she comes in once a week and spends some time with her. But also every couple of weeks we'll take her out for a coffee and just really input and give her that nurture that she needs. Some of the young people that we work with are struggling in so many different ways. And it's not uncommon to have at least 1 or 2 young people a week presenting with suicidal ideation, which just goes to reiterate the need that we have to support these young people in what they're going through. And it's in this one-on-one mentoring that I believe that we truly have the most influence on a young person. You know, recently we were excited to be invited into the Kimahia Teen Parent Unit. This is a unit that's in Linwood, and it caters for young girls from the ages of 14 to 19 that are either pregnant or have had a baby. We go in now once a week, and we've started a wee cultural group, and it's awesome. They come to this school, and they earn their NCEA credits, level 1, level 2 and level 3, and it's a really supportive and flexible environment for them to be able to come and learn. Last week when I was in there was a young girl that had just recently had a baby the week before, and she was bringing the baby back into the unit to show the rest of the girls, show her off to the rest of the girls really. And as I was there was another young lady who was 15, and she's 4 weeks away from having her baby, and she just sat there and she just started crying. And I sat with her and I said, look, what's wrong? You know, why are you so upset? And she just said, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I don't know how I'm going to be a mum. And that for me just broke my heart. You know, I was 21 when I had my first child, and I was married. And I still was very, very scared. I couldn't imagine being 14 or 15 and having a baby. The programs that we run as a trust work perfectly well with what one of our missionaries last week, Graham Fawcett, was talking about. He spoke about this type of discipleship he called the discipleship of the mat, the ministry of the mat. And it's not that we're ashamed to proclaim the gospel to these young people, but it's important to sit down on the mat with them, to learn their stories, to respect them, and to let them know that they are valued. To be there, forming authentic, caring relationships with them. And it's in these moments when a young person is being vulnerable that we can pray and invite and ask the Holy Spirit to intervene. And because of the mahi that we're doing in the school and in the community, we now have an average 25 to 30 young community Linwood kids coming to GVY every Thursday. Is this an easy thing? No way. It's really hard work. But they come and they can have some kai, and they're hearing the gospel every week. And really, what more can you ask for? It's a place where they can come and feel loved, valued and accepted. And it's over time that our prayer that they will encounter the love of Jesus through the love that is shown to them. And recently we had 3 of our young people from that youth group baptised, so that was super exciting for us. Easter camp again, again is a place where young people can come and have some fun. And I just really want to thank you for your generosity. Without the church's generosity, we wouldn't have been able to take as many community children to Easter camp as what we did. And there were some pretty amazing encounters that these kids had. Ben McGregor and Sam Rees have also been going into our college on a Wednesday afternoon or a Wednesday lunchtime to play games with the year 7 and 8s. I don't know if you know either of these. I'm sure you all know Ben, but Sam is pretty awesome too. And the kids just absolutely adore him. It's been a really massive hit building relationship with these young people. And 4 of those intermediates recently went to Life Camp and gave their hearts to the Lord. One of them actually, Ben, worked his magic and has converted the whole family, and they're at church this Sunday. And you know what? We're finding more and more as a trust that we're gaining favour in the community, with school and with the council and with other community stakeholders, which is awesome. But for me, this work is John 13:34-35. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. You know, so it's with this scripture in mind that I endeavour to love my local church and the community that it sits within. Is it easy? No. Are we overwhelmed at Strengthening Linwood Trust with need? Yes, we are. But this is what God is asking us to do. And I'm going to give that resounding yes to his call. You know, I took on this role last year after the wonderful Angelina left us. And it was only going to be temporary. I was only going to work till Christmas time. But I didn't bank on God breaking my heart for these kids in this community. And when you see the need that is in our local context, how can you not be impacted? And I am so desperate to see breakthrough and outbreaking of his kingdom in our local context.
Hello, I'm Anne, Compassion Trust, and I just wanted to share with you a little of an overview. We do quite a few things, and so it's going to be a bit of a ride. I'm just going to take you through a few things that we do, but the main purpose of what we do is embracing, equipping and empowering our community. We're all about 2 main things, which is budgeting as well as community outreach. For me, I've been with Compassion Trust 5 years now, and of all the jobs that I've had in my life, this has been the one that has fulfilled me the most. I just love getting alongside people in our community. I love working with all our volunteers that we have. We have about 36 volunteers who help us over all of our programs. And I want to show you what a week in the life of Compassion Trust is like. So in the Bible it talks about I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me, and I was in prison and you came to visit me. And the king replied, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of these, of the least brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Everything in that first paragraph, as a trust, we're basically are doing all of those things. We're feeding people, we're giving them drink, we're taking strangers in, we're clothing them, we're working with sick people all the time, and we've been working with people in the prison. The main purpose, one of our main purposes, is to really support people in practical ways, but the biggest key is through building relationships. And how do we do that? 2 areas: budgeting. So we have 2 forms of budgeting. We have a budgeting service over both campuses where we have 8 budgeters. And you can see in this last year that we worked with about 337 people, and the debt, and we've talked about it many times, the debt in this area and the Linwood area is just under $5 million that we're working with creditors. So the average person that we deal with has a debt anywhere from around 14,000 up to 50,000. So it's not like small amounts. I hardly, in my whole 5 years at Compassion Trust, I've only ever seen one client that had debt under $1,000. So it's really big dollars that we're talking with. So we'll work with creditors and work with agencies. The second part that we do through our budgeting is we run CAP money courses. These are preventative courses to try and educate people before they get into debt. Because if we find that if we can actually educate people on basic budgeting, we can help them in the long term to avoid getting into debt. So we have 4 outreaches that we work with through Compassion Trust. We have our community lunch, and through the next few slides you're going to see the volunteers who help to run these events or these outreaches. We have just amazing people who just give their time to make these successful. So we have a community lunch here on Mondays, and the purpose of that is we like to feed people, but we like to be able to sit down and talk with people, because this is the only way that we're going to be able to build relationships with people. When people come through our budgeting service, quite often we don't get the opportunity to talk about God. We have the opportunity to pray, but what we would do is we would encourage them to come into one of our outreaches so that we can actually sit down, have a meal with them and get beside them. Because for the long-term change of people, we've got to build relationships. So that's one of our biggest keys. Through our meals, we have people who provide food for us. We have beautiful cooks who cook meals. We have, just in this last year and a half, 2 years, we've had a lady in this church who's volunteered her time, and she comes and does haircuts for us straight after our community lunch. And that just came up about somebody had a dream for something that they wanted to, with the skills that she had. She just wanted to cut people's hair, and she didn't know how she could do that, and she came to us, and so we added it after our community lunch. And so now a lot of people who come to our lunch who cannot afford haircuts are having the opportunity to get a beautiful haircut, and she does an amazing job. We have a coffee and chat on Wednesday morning. The purpose of this group has actually been running since the earthquakes. It's just a small group. Different people come all the time, but once again, the purpose is to get alongside people and sit and chat. This is run just here at Beach Campus. We also have on a Thursday afternoon, we have Gwenda and her team. So she saw a need for people 55 plus who needed to maybe be connected somehow. She saw a lot of lonely people. And so this probably started after the earthquake as well. She really had a passion to pull people in, and so we have this social club, and they have outings alternate weeks, and then we have something in-house. And then the last thing we do within our outreaches, we have Latimer Square Outreach on Friday night. Jay and Felicia have been running this for many years. Jay, how long would that be? 5 years. So this is every Friday night between 6 and 7, and obviously you can see it's the opportunity for disciples to gather with others to share and meet the people less fortunate. And once again, we do it around food. They just sit and talk with people and have the opportunity to talk about God. So apart from our outreaches and our budgeting, obviously over the last couple of weeks we've been talking a lot about the food. So the food goes hand in hand with what we do through the budget service as well as through our outreach. We could feed many people, and we've talked about it in the last couple of weeks. So this is just another side, and you can see a little bit of feedback which we talked about in the last week. So this is an area that obviously is constantly we're wanting to grow. I wanted to give a big thanks because Compassion Trust, we really can't do what we do without the support of just amazing people. Mark, he has done a lot for us in regard to getting the name of Compassion Trust out there. He's helped us with our website, and I just wanted to give a real special thanks to him because he's supported us. And then obviously all the other organisations on the right there. These are people who have been committed to us, who see what we do and stand beside us. And obviously Grace Vineyard is one of the biggest supporters that we have because we're in the building. We have the support of the church constantly. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about going forward. What is ahead for Compassion Trust? In 2018, we want to look at doing cooking classes. A lot of people who come through our programs, a lot of young people don't know how to cook. So we want to start considering looking at cooking classes. We want to start working with to try and encourage people into work. How can they get into work? How can we help them to get into work? A lot of our clients are low income and maybe have been on a benefit. And one of the biggest things we see in the budget service is if we can get the opportunity to try and work with somebody in regard to setting goals or thinking ahead, then they can achieve things. And we think through a job club or something like that where we can help people, get alongside people, maybe help them with CVs and do all that sort of stuff. So that's something on the radar. But I also wanted to put it out there that if you've got a vision for something, if you've got a passion for something, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, I wonder where that could fit, it may be with us. Come and have a chat with us. It could be wild, it could be wonderful. Just come and have a chat with us because it could just fit into everything we're doing. And just in regard to before we finish off, so how could you help? We have many ways that you can help with Compassion Trust. Obviously, financially, people give to us, and if you did want to support the work of Compassion Trust, you could contact us within Compassion Trust. We would have to give you a separate giving number from the church, but we would assure you that any money that's given to Compassion Trust, it will be given into the areas that we are working in. You could become a volunteer. We're always looking for volunteers, for budget volunteers. With the budgeting, it would be a long-term commitment because it takes us quite a long time to train somebody up. Also, just with our outreach care programs, we do, obviously because we're feeding a lot and we're doing a lot of programs, we need volunteers to all step up for that. And then also just the donating of food. The food that you donate just helps so many people. And so I just would continue to put that out there. But just to finish off, I just want to give you a little, just a 1.5 minute video, which we put together. This really gives you an overview of what we do at Compassion Trust. This was the Christmas with Compassion in December last year. So that just gives you a taste of the week in Compassion Trust. And if we want to see change in people's lives, we have to be supporting them with all these practical things. James.
Wow. From your perspective, you sat there in your church congregations, come to Sunday morning church service, you hear these things. This is what your church is doing on an everyday basis. I mean, I'm a church congregation member as well. I just well up with pride seeing what Strengthening Linwood are doing, what Compassion Trust are doing. And we're not just a Sunday church. We never have been, we don't want to be. Like if we're here just for Sunday morning just to look after each other and do the niceties, that is not what Jesus called us to do. We're here, we're making difference in people's lives. We're changing lives. And it's so amazing. Youth Alive Trust is one of the other trusts that operates within the church. It was set up by the church back in 1989. The church back in the day actually was called New Brighton Baptist. It became Seaview Christian Centre, and now we are Grace Vineyard Beach campus, but the same mission, the same purpose, what we're trying to achieve, and we run youth and children's and family programs. Our motto is that we're here to build brighter futures for young people, and that happens through lots and lots of different ways. We do it through the 5 Ways of Wellbeing model, where we're teaching young people and our leaders about connecting with each other, about being active, getting physical, keeping learning, having new experiences, reflecting and taking notice, and also bringing an attitude of giving and generosity as well. One thing we do every week here, we run after-school weekly clubs. So we run 8 after-school clubs every week, run by numerous volunteers. So there's a boys' club on a Thursday afternoon, and they go off and they do little boy things. This week it was actually quite stereotypically boy. They went down to the domain and they built huts. Some weeks they do crafts and other types of activities as well. And unfortunately, this week the girls' club did something also quite stereotypical, and they'd had a pamper day. But sometimes they do baking and crafts and all types of activities, and lots of these programs are run by lots of volunteers, and they're teenagers themselves. We have an intermediates program on a Friday, Rock Solid. This week we did a World Vision Night, and the whole place was set up like a refugee camp, and they had to go and get immunised, they had to go to school, they had to go and do some work, and there was security and police and immigration around all abusing them and taking advantage of them, and they had a great time. And then we had an 18-year-old who, a World Vision ambassador, came, and he talked about he'd been to Uganda, into one of the refugee settlements, and he told his story, and he saw pictures of him there and videos of him there, and the kids, 60 of them, we had 60 intermediates here, they were dead silent. They were blown away by his story. It was so inspiring, and who knows how many of those 60 will in the future go on to be working in refugee settlements elsewhere by listening to his story. It was amazing. We have a teenage club every Friday night this week, and they went down into the red zone and they played Spotlight. They all came back, which was good. There was only a few torches. I think there's a wee bit of mud around the place. Apologies for that. We do basketball clubs every week in the gym. We do dance fitness Mondays and Thursdays in the gym. We have a craft club every Wednesday afternoon, and we have a kitchen club every Monday as well, where they're learning baking skills and cooking skills. We have youth workers who go into the local schools, a bit like Strengthening Linwood at Linwood, and we have youth workers at Raffiti Primary. They do leadership skills, they do mentoring, they do sports programs, one-on-one, and we have counsellor 1 day a week at New Brighton Catholic, at Raffiti Primary, and at Belfast, and they're dealing with the most at-risk young people. And when they came up and did a wee talk last year at our presentation, they said that they see 5 or 6 people every week saying that they just don't want to go on living. And these are primary school young people. It's serious stuff. And we're in there, we're just trying to work with them, changing their mindsets. We have a daily Oscar program that runs every day after school. We have junior holiday program, which takes 40 young people, and a senior holiday program, which takes another 40 young people, and a breakaway program for our intermediates and teenagers, which takes 80 young people. We ran that in the last set of holidays, which was pretty successful and a lot of fun. We take young people away on camps. We've got a teen winter camp in a couple of weeks, going away somewhere, I don't know where. We go to AMP Camp, which is an intermediates camp. We take our leaders to Extend, which is at Living Springs, it's a leadership development program. We take fathers and sons away on a camp for a weekend so that they can bond. They do some sessions on communication. They actually talk to each other. And we've had so much positive feedback on these. In a couple of weeks, we've been in our first teen camp for teenagers and their dads. And historically, it's just been for the intermediates. And the dads come back to us and say, I've never actually talked to my boy this much in years. I mean, what a privilege it is to kind of facilitate such a thing. And we also do mother and daughter camps as well. We take young people on Easter camp, and then we do some one-on-one support, like I mentioned, a bit of counselling, and then the mentoring, which is something we really are stepping up this year, to kind of look after the mentors and look after the people being mentored and getting the right systems in place. We have some support in New Brighton Library. We have youth workers. Historically, we've had youth workers in there every day and in the holidays as well. And then we help with some of the bigger community events that some of you have been involved in, the Family Fun Nights, which we had 700 people at last year. One of the main organisers of I Love New Brighton. We do dance parties, we do skate discos, we have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and with other special events like that youth ball that we just ran. Parenting and preschool is another area that really took off once I started having kids myself. We have some good relationships with Plunkett, and they run Peppy courses. We have 2 different play groups, Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings, and those are going so well. 80% of the parents who come along are just community mums and their kids. We do some parenting seminars and getting some high-profile speakers. We do some toolbox courses. There's a breastfeeding drop-in every week. Don't ask me anything more about that. There's a babysitting training course we run in the holidays for their teenagers. We do music concerts. And we also have a music school that operates here. So we have 135 students who learn musical instruments every week, either in school or in here, doing lessons. We have youth bands, and they go and do performances in the community as well. All this is run by 7 full-time equivalent staff, so there's a few part-timers in there, and about 45 volunteers. And lots of our volunteers are actually young people who've kind of come through our systems, come through the systems ourselves. And I want to introduce to you one of the volunteers, Shanae, and I'm just going to do a little bit of an interview with Shanae with another microphone, which is going to be around here. There it is. So, Shanae, how did you get involved in Youth Alive Trust?
I first became involved with Youth Alive Trust when I was 8 years old. So I'm currently almost turning 18, so that's 10 years now. Like James said, there was the staff that go into the schools, and I first became involved with Youth Alive Trust through the youth workers coming into schools and hanging out with me and doing fun activities at lunchtime, and down at the New Brighton Library that I'd go to every day, and they'd just keep me in shape and just hang out with me and play games and stuff.
What type of support have you got as a young person through the work of YAT?
I've had so much support over the last 10 years. Like I said, the staff who came into the schools, I had one particular lady who just really took me under her wing and became my mentor for years and helped me through so much through high school, through just life in general. I have been, the bands, I was in a band, and it helped me acknowledge that I have a love for music, and then that led into worship, and so that's so cool. And also when I was sitting down, something came into my head about last year, my stepbrother had leukemia cancer, and what Youth Alive did is they put together a wee hamper and gave it to my family, and just lots of support like that. And it's there's so much, and I can't even tell you how much they've supported me. But it's so much.
How has it changed you?
Oh, so much. Before I came to Youth Alive Trust, just a normal 8-year-old, didn't really know who she was, but when I came, I made so much friends outside of my school that I wouldn't talk to or hang out with. I grew as a person. I was more confident in talking to others and building relationships and who I was.
It's been a bit of a faith journey as well.
Yeah, so Youth Alive Trust helped. They introduced me to who this God dude was. They would buy the 5-minute Christian content that they do there, and then that opened up a door to coming to church here at a 6 p.m. service at Beach back in the day when that was a thing.
As part of our leadership development, we often get our junior leaders to do the God spots in different clubs, and one of the young people was doing the Easter story in the last holiday program. Sorry, we didn't talk about this, but and he was telling, he was like, and he was kind of trying to remember how it goes, and then Jesus kind of goes to everybody, I'll be back. Your story's just a wee bit mixed in. Anyway, it's all leadership development, isn't it?
Yeah, just it's changed me so much, and it's helped me grow in a person who I am, because they've helped me become a leader. So I've volunteered for probably everything up there over the last 10 years.
And your parents, are they churchgoers, and what do they think of this?
My parents don't go to church. I'm the only one that goes to church, but my sisters come to the Youth Alive program, and they came here to Youth Alive through me and just hearing my cool stories about the crazy fun activities that we do here at Youth Alive.
And you've just recently won an award.
Yeah, so at my school, I go to Avonside, we have a club at school and it's called Z Club, and that what we do is we fundraise money for organisations and charities, and so they offer an award which is Young Publican Affairs, which is for young women who volunteer their time to influence other young women. And so I was like, oh great, I've done that for 10 years, like I'll apply for that. Didn't think that I'd actually get it, and I won the award out of all of Canterbury, and it's like, thanks. And so what I won was just money, and they didn't know what the money was going towards when they gave it to me. And so what the money is going towards is next year is my first year out of high school and I'm going to do missions. Yeah. So that's where the money's going towards.
Overseas missions?
Yes, it's going to be overseas missions. So I'm going to do a 3-week trip in Kolkata, India for free set. Some point of the year. I haven't made up my mind just yet. It's very new, and also I'm going to be working with an organisation called Purpose Project, and we're going to be in Uganda building a school for 1 month.
Cool. Thanks, Sinead. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sinead is one example of a young person. We could get lots and lots of people up, and I know Compassion Trust could, and Strengthen Linwood could, people whose lives have actually been changed. And we are home missionaries. In 2004, I actually came into the country on a missionary visa. And when I did a wee bit of research, I found that New Zealand was one of the most secular countries in the world. And I got my home church back in the UK to support me and some of my Christian families. So I came across as a missionary. And I would write them missionary emails back. This is what I'm doing as a missionary in New Zealand, in Christchurch, to reach young people. And I'm going into the schools and I'm working in these after-school programs and I'm building relationships, and they would receive these newsletters and go, wow, we've got a missionary in New Zealand. See what I'm doing here? Because you're all missionaries, in whichever circumstance in which you're in. All our staff are, all our volunteers are, all our congregation are. And you're a missionary in your workplace, and you're a missionary amongst your friends, you're a missionary in your neighbourhood, amongst your neighbours, you're a missionary down the supermarket, and the pay's not good, and it takes a bit of sacrifice, it takes a bit of getting outside of your comfort zone, and it can be pretty uncomfortable, but the rewards and the satisfaction long term is amazing. And we don't actually know what fruit the work that we're doing with young people and working in the community is going to have, because we might not actually see the real fruit of it, and somebody else might reap the reward and seeing people's lives change later on, but we are planting seeds and we are seeing change here and now, and you guys can too. Acts 13 verse 47 says that this is what the Lord has commanded us. I have made you a light for the Gentiles, that you may bring salvation to the ends of the earth. And you've got to shine your light in dark places. If you shine in a lit room, you can't see a torch. You can't see the light. You've got to go into dark places. You've got to shine your light. And you don't rely upon the trusts in the church to shine the lights for this community as well. You've all got to shine your lights. And sometimes you might have your own visions and dreams, and you might want to start something, and you can come and talk to the trust, and can we umbrella something, or can we start up a new trust, and can the church take something new vision on, or sometimes it's just the one-on-one stuff. Because you're all missionaries, and here's the challenge: if you were to be writing a newsletter home every couple of months to somebody and saying, look, this is what I've done as a missionary, this is the difference I'm making in the lives of young people, what would you be writing?
It's just totally inspiring. I don't know if you realise like how special it is, the stuff that is happening in this community through Linwood and Youth Alive and Compassion Trust. It's just amazing seeing hope rise, and I hope you're encouraged this morning hearing those stories. But exactly.